Bum 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 bum. Hey everybody, come on in. It's time. It's time for Coffee with Scott Adams. And what a day it is. It's just like other days, except it's better because of the simultaneous sip that's going to come at you. It's coming at you soon, coming at you hard. And all you need is, what do you need? You know what you need. Come on, you know what you need. It's a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, chalice or stein, a canteen jug or a flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I kind of like my coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure, the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better. It's called the simultaneous sip, and it happens now. Go. Yeah, I can feel Biden's poll numbers falling. It only took one sip. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's jump right into it. Are you ready? Yeah, we'll talk about Wisconsin in a moment. We'll let a few more people get in here. One thing I didn't see coming is that the government, the Trump administration, has declared the fentanyl dealer in China, the big fentanyl dealer whose name we know, weirdly, we know who he is. He's the big fentanyl dealer who sends the fentanyl to the United States and kills our citizens. And they've designated it a foreign national, what is the word? Foreign narcotics kingpin designation, which allows them to sanction anything that this guy's attached to. So this guy's other entities will all be starting to get squeezed at this point. Good, keeps the pressure on. So the big news, of course, there's a tragic shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin. You've probably caught the news by now, but a young man, was he 18 years old, was allegedly part of the Boogaloo Boys, or maybe not, or maybe he was just there as a local protecting businesses from looters. It's all fog of war right now, so I think we should hold off on who he was and why he was there. But of course, social media has decided he's a white supremacist. Is he a white supremacist? So far, those claims have come with no evidence of such a thing. Anything's possible, but remember Nick Sandmann. If you're going to call this guy a white supremacist, you better come with some evidence, because I think Nick Sandmann showed that it's a bad idea to start labeling people based on your first impression. So, I think I've been telling you for some time that the obvious way that these protests/riots/looting episodes were going to go is there was only one way this was going to go, under the assumption that the police would not get more aggressive, which seemed likely, and that the local government would not let the federal government come in and take care of the violent stuff. So given that there was going to be no adult supervision, and that was intentional, that the local leadership decided to not have any kind of adult leadership during the protest/riots/looting. So it was obvious that the locals would end up arming themselves, because what else would happen? I mean, really, can you think of any other outcome? It's obvious that this had to happen. But what's more obvious is that this is the beginning, not the one-off. It's pretty obvious that more militia are going to, and maybe just more citizens, are going to bring heavier arms, heavier meaning more than a pistol, and they're going to start showing up. Now, how often will this turn into an event like this? More. There will be more of it. And unfortunately, there's probably no other way it's going to stop. Now, you could get the worst case scenario, which is that the protesters also arm. Now, if the protesters arm, and obviously some of them, or a lot of them actually, are armed, but so far they haven't started using it in terms of as a protest. So you might see a whole different level in coming nights of who's armed and who's willing to use those arms. But ultimately, this is the way it had to go. So I feel bad for anybody who gets hurt, and I don't encourage any violence against anybody. But as a prediction, there's only one way this can go. And it won't go forever. It will end with more of this. The only other way we could get an off-ramp is if this, or maybe there's some, violence after this that's sort of a copycat. Usually you could count on the copycat stuff. So it's an easy prediction that there'll be more that looks a lot like last night with so there was a young white guy. Unfortunately, it matters that he's white because that's the state of things. Shot 3 people. I think 2 of them may have passed. And he may have been there to protect against looting. It looks like there's a video of the police being friendly with him and actually thanking him for his help. So I think the police believed he was there just as an armed, citizen. And as long as he wasn't pointing his gun at people, I guess the police were okay with that. I don't think they're okay now. Somebody says 1 died. So remember, it's fog of war. Everything you hear about this is going to be unlikely to be true. So wait at least 48 hours before you're sure of anything that happened out of this event. So I think that there is now an exit, meaning that you can now see where the end of it is, which is it's going to be more of this, and that will in turn cause people to get a little bit more serious about it, and either the law enforcement or the federal government will come in and end it, or the locals will end it. It's possible the locals will just do more of this, and it'll just become more of a tragedy. All right, let's talk about something else, because that's pretty dark. So there's something that happened at CNN this week, and mostly last night. And if you didn't catch it, it's the most mind-boggling thing you've ever seen in your life. CNN has made some kind of an editorial decision to change the way they're framing things somewhat suddenly, or it's a coincidence, or it's temporary. It might be temporary. But last night, CNN almost became Republican, and I didn't know what I was seeing. They completely left their crazy frame of everything Orange Man does is bad and everything the left does is good. They pretty much reversed it last night. If you watched the coverage, CNN was saying in fairly unambiguous language that the RNC Night 2 was really good. Now, a lot of it had to do with the fact that the RNC, very strategically, let's say, made sure that they hit all of the right notes for identity politics. So they really did a great job of featuring these successful women in the Trump campaign, which is actually it's a strong spot that they have not really emphasized until now. So if you were a CNN viewer, or let's say a Democrat, you were watching the RNC, you probably didn't know what you were seeing, because you'd see all these successful black Republicans talking about things, and you'd say, I didn't know there were black Republicans. Of course, nobody says that exactly, but you understand the hyperbole. Just turning it on and watching the Republicans create a program that involved lots of Republicans deciding what's the best thing to do for Republicans and for the country, presumably. And they decided that the best thing to do was to show lots of support for every disadvantaged group, every marginalized group, and they put on quite a show. And I would say that they basically took all the ammo away from CNN. CNN would love to have criticized them for not doing enough for women, not highlighting, black issues, but they hit them all, and they hit them hard. And so even David Axelrod was saying, okay, got to give it to him. That was a really good production. In terms of a political production, it was extraordinarily well done. So I'd say the RNC has now nailed 2 in a row. like really, really well. Some of the highlights, if you didn't watch it, Nick Sandman did his little speech about his situation. I thought he did really well. I wasn't expecting much just because of his age. You know, if you see somebody that age and you say, okay, you're going to be on, you know, the biggest stage in the world, and we're not going to give you any practice. It's just your first day. How about giving your first speech ever, and it'll be to the entire world? And he nailed it. If you didn't watch it, he's an impressive kid, meaning that he's got some game, and he actually nailed it. Now, of course, I guess the punctuation to his little speech was when he put on his MAGA hat, which was quite a cool moment, I got to say. It was a good moment. Before that, the president really hit all the right emotional feels a number of times. I caught the show late, so I had to catch up on his pardon of John Ponder. So I guess John Ponder didn't know that he was there to get pardoned. Now he's out of prison, so the pardon, I guess, does what? Does it take away his record? I don't know the details of it. But John Ponder had been convicted at one point, and now he'd been active in the community helping people who were trying to transition back from prison to life, to regular life, and apparently he was very successful at it. So watching him and being best friends with a police officer, that is just A-plus imagery. I mean, there was a lot of genius in that production. This is not normal. If you really studied how well the RNC pulled this together the first two nights, it's extraordinary. This is not normal work. You're seeing the best of the best in a very short time pull together something that's really impressive. And to create that moment where John Ponder found out on film, I don't know if it was live or it was on film, probably live, but watching his expression as he found out that he was there to get pardoned was extraordinary. You have to watch it. It's totally worth watching the clip just to watch that moment. I didn't think it would be as powerful as it was, but it was really powerful. Then some other stars, I guess it's David Cameron, the African-American Attorney General of Kentucky, I think even CNN called it his star turn. And I'm thinking, what am I watching? They actually gave him just an A+. What? He's a Republican. And CNN just said A+. And I'm waiting for the and he killed a baby, and he murdered a person. Nothing. Just A+. Star turn. He might be like a rising star, black man in the Republican Party, and he wasn't the only one. People were also talking about Tim Scott as being, maybe auditioning for 2024 to run for president as a Republican, another African American man who's clearly in line for a good shot at the presidency as a Republican. Pretty good. So it would have been hard for the CNN to criticize this thing, but let me give you some other high points. All right. Now, obviously, this convention stuff is all it's all tricks, right? It's all staged, theatrical. It's a little bit heavy-handed, as in, hey, look at our black people who are doing well. Look at our women who are doing well, and yeah, excuse me. I'll be right back. I can't talk to you. I'm on live stream right now. So if you just put it down. I'll sign it for you, but I'm live to the world right now. Sorry, I had to take care of a little business. Yes, sir. And I'll get right back to you. Hold on a second here. Just hold on a second. All right. Thanks. All right, I'm back. So, what was I talking about? So anyway, CNN loved this thing. Here was my favorite part. Now, if you're looking for how well it was produced, there are moments. I was talking, about Tim Scott. So the Republican Party showed legitimately at least two black men in the Republican Party who you would say, you look at them for 5 minutes and you say, yeah, I could see them as president. I could totally see them as president. That's very powerful. Bette Midler, somebody says Bette Midler. She was freaking out and said bad things about Melania. All right, so let's talk about Melania. CNN was praising her, Republicans are praising her. One of the most successful speeches you're ever going to see. I think President Trump is really happy about her today, and if he's not, he needs to be, because she nailed it. Now, there's something about Melania that is different than any politician, because she's mostly about bringing the empathy and the caring and stuff. And because she did a good job on the empathy and caring part, that does sort of cross over to her husband. In other words, you have a hard time imagining that, first of all, Melania seems totally genuine. All of the caring and the empathy for Melania, I think everybody agrees that's real. Nobody thinks that's not real. And then you say to yourself, well, she married this guy who we don't think is so empathetic, right? But maybe he is, because it certainly confuses things, doesn't it? So I think that she did a great job of humanizing the president and showing that, at least his team has empathy, and one assumes that he's got some of that too, just by association. But here's my favorite part. If you saw the beginning part where she did the long tracking walk on the way to the podium, that was genius. And here's why it's genius. Most people can't walk. And by that I mean, could you imagine anybody else who they would give a long tracking shot to? So you see them walking toward the camera, but for a long ways. It wasn't just like, here's a shot and then cut away. They made a deal of showing her as a tiny distant figure and then walking toward the camera. And what was genius about this is you could pick 1,000 people who couldn't walk the way she walks, because she's a trained model. So when she walks, it's literally professional walking. I don't know if you were like catching it at the time, but whoever had the genius to catch the professional walking before she actually did the speech, that's beyond good work. That's like next level stuff, because not only did it give you a sense of distance, because this is the other thing it did. If you're watching these televised things without audiences or without much of an audience, they can look flat. But think of the dimensionality you got when they did this long shot down the sidewalk, and you saw a tiny Melania who, let's be honest, the audience was waiting for her, right? You knew she was going to be one of the highlights, and people were interested, because even if they didn't like the president, they kind of are interested in Melania. She's just interesting in a lot of different ways. So to have that, just beautiful walk-up introduction, give some depth to the viewer, it was just smart. Yeah, and of course, everybody will talk about her outfit and all that, so it gives them lots to talk about that's not too serious, and maybe we needed that. So the critics were completely out of ammo, and they're starting to complain about the Hatch Act, which says you can't use the White House, or I don't know, maybe it's all federal property, I'm not sure, but you can't use the White House for political stuff unless you're the president. Now, of course, the president can do it, which makes sense. It's not like anybody knows he's not the president, so why not do it there? But are you going to apply that to Melania? I don't know if the Hatch Act applies to her as First Lady. She's not elected, so maybe she's exempt. But they tried to say, I was watching Joy Reid, I think, say that Chad Wolf, who is, what is he? He did the immigration ceremony thing. They're saying that the Hatch Act was violated because he did his little thing swearing in citizens. And I'm thinking, oh my God, Trump did it again. He lured them into criticizing the most unimportant thing that happened. In the entire country, there is nothing less important, nothing. If you made the longest list you could of the problems in the United States, you would be down at like problem number 10,000 before the problem of Chad Wolf talked for 60 seconds in a building he wasn't supposed to be in, while he was standing next to the president, who is completely allowed to do a political act. Now, is it a political act that he swore in 5 or 6 new citizens? I don't know. Is that a political act? Would you consider it a political act, per se, to see somebody sworn in as a citizen? I don't know. If you're going to make a complaint about that, that is the smallest little pico problem in the United States. Yeah, technically. Is Joy Reid technically right? I don't know. Do you care? Do you care? No. So Trump once again tricked them into talking about the only thing no audience cares about. That even MSNBC was probably saying, seriously? Really? You're completely out of ammo, so your complaint was that Chad Wolf did his job, because I think swearing in people is probably in the domain of his job. That's a pretty small complaint. So you're doing great. But let's talk about the swearing in. As Anderson Cooper noted, and it was a great moment of CNN TV, I hope you saw it live, because Anderson Cooper said that watching the president swear in these new citizens who had come from a variety of countries, that Anderson Cooper actually went there, and he said, it looks like they were selected to be from the, quote, shithole countries. And I thought to myself, did you really say that? Did you really say that these people, even though he's obviously trying to quote President Trump from long ago, are you really tying these 6 people who just want to be citizens? They just want to be good people, be good to the kids, have good families, contribute to our country. They just want to be citizens. And Anderson Cooper drags them into this shithole country conversation. I will admit that the president probably was trying to counter, that story. I mean, that seems somewhat obvious. But here's the fun part. And then Anderson Cooper says it seemed, I don't know what word he used, jarring or discordant were 2 of the words that I heard last night. It seemed jarring because on one hand, the president had said a bad thing about the countries that, I don't know if any of them were from those countries, which is part of what's bad about what Anderson said. But he said it was jarring that the president would say bad things about it, and then he would act so nice to people from, at least countries in that class, if you will, of not the superpowers. And I thought to myself, Anderson Cooper, why is this jarring to you? Was he unaware that the president, is my microphone not good? Is the president unaware, is Anderson Cooper unaware that the president has always been 100% in favor of legal immigration? Is it the first time CNN is finding out that the president of the United States favors legal immigration? Because I don't think there was any discord there. I don't think there was anything that was in conflict there. And the fact that he thought so was just mind-blowing, because only CNN and the fake news made a fake story out of this. And so his own fake story wasn't matching with his own observation. and he was trying to understand why his own fake news didn't match his observation on live TV. It was a great moment. It was a small moment, but it was great. All right. One of the best lines of the night that made me just go, what? Was David Cameron, the AG from Kentucky, who referred to Biden as a backwards thinker. That's really good. Now, I don't know if anybody helps him with his speeches. You assume that anybody who gives a speech at a big convention probably has professionals who are helping with everything. So it might have been a professional who helped him with that, but that's a great line against Biden. A backwards thinker as opposed to someone who's focused on the future. That was good stuff. Let me just say about the naturalization ceremony. I am very cynical and jaded and, all those things, as many of you are. But there's one thing that gets me every time. I cannot watch people swearing in to become new members of the United States, new citizens. I can't watch that ceremony without just crying every time. Doesn't matter, last night, yes. But I've seen, other videos. I've seen videos of people I know who are going through that process. And I gotta say, let me put it this way. If a revolution happened tomorrow, and you wanted to, and let's say something happened that burned all of the books, and something destroyed the internet. So we lost all of our records of civilization, we lost all of our structure, the government was overthrown, and we lost everything. And you wanted to build it back. What would be the one thing you'd need to retain to be able to build it back? The only thing. That everything else could be built back if you just kept that one thing. And that's what you saw with that naturalization ceremony. That's the thing. The fact that that can happen, that those people, those excellent citizens, would come to this country and would buy into not just, the real estate. They weren't saying we came to the United States because it has good real estate. They weren't saying that. They were buying into the idea. So here's the thing. No matter how bad things are, no matter riots in the streets, no matter fake news, no matter wars, no matter coronavirus, no matter unemployment, no matter bad words on the internet, as long as that one thing works, as long as we keep that one thing, we can get back everything else. So, so I'm a big baby, and I have to admit that touched me. So, this one funny thing, yesterday I was joking. I have to say something funny because I have to get in a different mood here for a moment. I was telling you about all the weird coincidences between the Biden campaign and Satanism. Now, I'm not a believer, so I don't believe there's a real Satan, but it is humorous how many coincidences there are that you could find. Let's call it confirmation bias, but there are lots of coincidences you can find once you're looking for them, which is really the lesson in this, is that once you're looking for them, they're everywhere. And after I did that, somebody told me that Kamala Harris's middle name, wait for this, you're going to be glad you heard this. You ready? Kamala Harris's middle name is Devi, D-E-V-I. The only thing that's missing to turn her middle name into literally devil is an L. And you know what's funny about that? Oh, that's funny already. But you know what's really funny about that? Kamala Harris, the only thing she needs is an L, and Trump's going to give it to her. She's going to get the L. She's not going to get the W. So did the simulation just serve up to us? Her middle name is Devi, and all she needs is an L, and Trump's going to give her the L? I mean, come on. Is any of this real? Is this a real world? It couldn't possibly be. This is so obviously scripted at this point. You couldn't possibly believe this is anything but a simulation. All right, here's my prediction. Are you ready? I understand that Trump not only, or I'm sorry, that when Biden did his convention thing there, Biden got no bounce. There was no Biden bounce. Apparently, if you live in the basement, you don't get much of a bounce. Do you think there'll be a bounce from the RNC? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Just wait for the next poll. Now, I don't want to say that I'm psychic, because that's not what's happening in this particular case. But you might get some laughs when you see the next poll. All right. Somebody's telling me that Kamala means different things. That means horrible in Finnish. And somebody said that Lucifer means the bringer of light, which is literally what Biden is claiming. Biden says he'll bring us light. Somebody said that that's what Lucifer means, actually the bringer of light. I don't know if that's true, but somebody said it. All right, come on, man. I'm going to eat my breakfast. That's all for now, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.